next thing we're going to take a look at here in this demo is going to take a look at Windows shadow copies. Now the way we can go through and configure shadow copies is we're going to go through and go to Start, and I'm just going to cheat here. I'm going to go to Start, Computer. I'm going to click on my right click on my volume here when it comes up, and I'm going to say Configure Shadow Copies. And you can see here by default it says okay, shadow copies. Now shadow copies right now by default are disabled, so I'm going to go ahead and enable that. It's going to say okay, if you enable it, Windows will use the default schedule and settings to create a shadow copy of the selected volume now. Now keep this in mind right here. If you have a lot of stuff going on in the server at once, a lot of people accessing files, reading from files, writing to files, doing all that, this will slow it down. So for right now I don't have any of that going on, so I'm going to click yes. Now typically this is going to be a small volume, but typically if it's a larger volume this will take an increasing amount of time. So you can see in here it found 2 shares, it's using 300 megs to go through and back those guys up, and that's fine. Now if I want to override the schedule the next time it's going to run, you can see on here it set a time. It's going to run 11/17/2008 at 7 a.m. So I want to do that ahead of this. I can click create now. It's going to take a second, and it will go through and take a snapshot of the data in those shares on here, and you can see it's created a new one. Now let's say I didn't like the way this was working right now. I could click settings, and I go here and say okay, here's the volume that I'm looking at. Now you can take a look how much space is going to use to do this backup. Well, for right now it's going to have, you can see 6,500 megs, so what that comes out to 6.5 gigs on here. So it's going to go up to 6.5 gigs. When 6.5 gigs is hit, it will start operating on a first in first out basis. So whatever the oldest shadow copy taken was, that's the one that's going to be shown the door first, and then so on and so forth. If you don't want that behavior, you could go to no limit, and then in which case it'll keep growing and growing and growing until there's no more space available on the volume, and then something else occurs called errors in the event log. Note right here that 300 megs is the minimum you can allocate to a shadow copy. That's why we saw 300 megs in the previous slide. It has to have at least that floor in there to do this, otherwise it won't work. So you can see on here schedule. Now if you look at the schedule, you can see the schedule is what's going to do every day at 7 a.m. Monday, Tuesday, and Friday. Actually during the weekday, it's going to go through and do a backup. If I want to modify that, I could click in additional days or times, just by clicking new, and put an additional scheduled backup days in there. So like I just did. So you can see on here, there's my additional times I've gone through and put in. So I'm just going to go ahead and I'm going to click cancel here, and click cancel on here doesn't change anything, and you can see that right now it's backing up 2 shares, and on a regular basis it's going through on my schedule and taking a snapshot of what's in there and making a backup of it. And that way I could go through and easily go out to that share as administrator and roll it back at any time.